for this, you're gonna need a torque wrench, breaker bar, hammer, half-inch ratchet with some sockets, 18 and a 17. A couple of pry bars, just one might work. An 18 mil wrench, I just got this offset wrench. Measuring tape, blue Loctite, red Loctite, possibly a torch. Some WD-40 might help, or PB Blaster. And then you're gonna need a jack, an impact might help, and then you need some jack stands. Lastly, probably gonna want some anti-seize to put on your hub, the outside of your brake rotors, and maybe some bolts. First thing is gonna be finding the jack point. Under here, you're gonna find this little cap and you're gonna look under there, there'll be some solid stuff, all right? We're gonna jack this up. We're gonna impact off the wheel and we're gonna check it out. All right, so we lifted the car up and check out what I got going on. This guy was not lying. He's straight up used vice grip as a bump stop. Gonna get this wheel off and go from there. Poverty impact from Harbor Freight, Chicago Electric. I don't think they make that anymore. Oh yeah, no problem, no problem. Pry bar, I got a big old pry bar. Just gonna try to get him out of there. What the fuck going on in this bit? One pry bar on this second coil here. Bottom. That might work. I think it's gonna fucking shoot out of here and kill me. Alright, I finally got it out. The strategy I did was, if it's in there, just kind of push down on this with one hand, shake it back and forth, and then yank with the other hand. That should get it out. Alright, y'all, so on the verts, you got to get into this thing, the cover. And mine doesn't actually work, so I'm going to have to, like, push and pry and get this shit open. But the good thing about the verts is you don't actually have to reinforce these rears. Don't worry about buying the rear strut reinforcements if you have a vert, because... In here, it actually wasn't too hard to lift this up, and the nice thing about the verts is the top mount supports actually go up into this sheet metal up here, so shouldn't need to reinforce that. So we tightened that down. So one thing you need to know about the max beating rods is you really can't go low enough. A lot of us, we're going to want to go lower than what the max beating rod springs allow. So is to go as low as you can, just take out all the collars, all the rubber, just run the spring right on the arm. Yeah, that's how I have this side. You can see that's about as low as you can go. And actually, I'm lying. I have the little thin collar in there, so I'm going to go ahead and take that out, and then we'll show you again how low you can go with it maxed. All right, so here's what I'm talking about. You're going to want to take all this shit out of here. Take this rubber out. I'm not going to use this. Right on the bottom there. Get a little bit of lube. So rust as much, hopefully. We're just gonna throw the spring right down in there. Any parts the top. And then you're gonna take your jack. Well, you probably wanna have it on a jack stand instead of a jack like that, unless you have two jacks. I mean, you probably have it on a jack stand anyway, but I got a tire under there. We're safe. So then you're gonna compress it. Make sure that's out of the way. Right there. And we're gonna compress that about 10 millimeters. What you wanna just check is that it's just not loose in there. Out on the coil, on the shock. So we're gonna have to spin this up a bit. All right, so we got that all in there. Got everything in there. Spring doesn't move around. This is bolted up. 57 foot-pounds on this guy and 57 foot-pounds on the top if you mess that up. And yeah. All right, what's up, guys? We're back in the garage. Front coilovers. So I already did one side just so I would know how to do it to be a bit better at instructing you guys on it. So we'll go ahead and pull the wheel off the driver's side, which is the side I haven't done, and we'll get right to it. So there's a bolt that goes in here. It's 18 mil. It's super tight, and it's, if you have an old car, it's likely to be welded to the strut right there, like from rust. So I ended up having to use a torch, held the torch on there for about 5 minutes, and then I hit it with my 3-pound hammer, and eventually it came out. Now I did wreck the bolt hammering it out, so I got a new one just from the hardware store. We're going to throw that in. It doesn't have the thin threadless section to insert into the spindle there, so hopefully that's fine. And then there's 2 bolts on the back of this that are also super stiff because they are red Loctited. So I ended up using a breaker bar. You have to make sure the car is jacked up plenty. Got the breaker bar there. I put the jack underneath the breaker bar, jacked it up, and it cracked loose. If you have an impact, you might be able to get into there. So basically there's 3 18 mils. They're all a bitch to get off. So I got the coil in there. The tip, it's kind of hard to get this thing lined up because you got to get this into the strut here, the spindle into the strut, and then you got to line up. There's a little like post, a metal post that kind of goes into a hole to fit, to line everything up with the bottom 2 bolts. So you got to really shimmy it around. What I like to do is shimmy it around to where you're lining this up, get that in there, throw the bolt in, don't nut it up, and then wiggle it around until that middle post goes into the hole, and then thread in one of these. Use red thread locker on these because they're red thread lock from factory. Thread lock one of them, get it all the way in, take this one that you had out to hold it in out, then red thread lock it, put it in, then torque everything down here. It's 107 Newton meters or 79 foot-pounds, and then adjust this. Now the key to adjusting this is, I got a little confused on this because there's 2 adjustments. There's your preload adjustment here and your actual ride height adjustment with this collar. So what you do is you first set your preload, so you break this up, loosen it, spin this down until the spring wiggles, okay? And then twist the top collar up until the spring doesn't wiggle anymore. It's just barely tight in there. And then preload it. So what I do is, like I said, you get your collar, twist it up until the spring isn't wiggling anymore. And then you'll take this, twist it up to the top of that, but not tight. And then go up 1/2 centimeter, go up 5 millimeters from there. So spin this up about 5 millimeters, measure it, okay, and then lock it tight. So I did that, and then this will be up here, okay, and then you want to set your ride height by spinning this top one, and that'll thread the strut into the coil assembly down here, okay, lowering it or raising it depending on which way you spin it, and then lock it in. And you want to measure both sides, and then you'll lower the car and test everything. So just remember to torque these down. Then come up here, tighten these, use blue Loctite, I haven't done that yet, and then torque these down to spec. I'll have to get the torque spec. I'll have it on the video here. Blue Loctite on those, red Loctite on those bottom 2, and then blue Loctite on this one. And remember, 107 Newton meters.